Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization, breaking through strength plateaus, video number 8, adding muscle size. What? I thought this was a strength series and we're back to hypertrophy. Well, we're back to hypertrophy for a very good reason. There are roughly 3 contributing sources to your ability to be strong at any given lift. One, of course, is technique. How you align the bar or dumbbells or whatever with respect to your body, huge, can produce tons of gains. Another is neural output, given that you have a certain size muscle and certain basically body, how much neural drive do you send to that muscle and how little do you send to other muscles that co-contract and keep that muscle from really wrenching. So for example, you'll see this with beginners a lot. When they bench press, not only will they push with their triceps and chest, but they're actually pulling on the bar at the same time with their, lats and back and their biceps. They're just kind of going, ah! And it's shown in a lot of research actually. But as you get stronger over especially the first several months of a program, but small gains occur for years, is you actually learn to not contract or contract less the muscles that oppose the movement and free up the muscles that are actually supposed to do the work. So that's an example of how the nervous system can take kind of the individual of the same biomechanics and musculature and make one of them way, way stronger than the other one. And 3, or the same individual over time. And 3 is muscle size and architecture. Your muscles are actually shaped in a very nuanced way in order to accept or produce various forces. So for example, if you do a wide stance squat, your quads actually point, the muscle fibers point in a slightly different direction than if you do a lot of narrow stance squatting. That's why if you're really used to wide stance squatting, other than of course some different muscles being involved, even if you just change your foot position, you're like, well, fuck, my legs are supposed to be the same muscle and size and strength. How come I'm so much worse at this variant? And you'll notice that over the course of just a few weeks, you get way stronger at that new variant. One of those reasons is, of course, the neural component is changing, but also that the architecture changes, and that really lets you get more out of the same size muscle because it's a different shape. But of course, last and definitely not least is how big your muscles actually are. I mean, duh, the number one element really of strength is size. And the ultimate evidence for that is like, there's a reason we have weight classes, and there's a reason you can estimate someone's strength just from how jacked they are. Like a lot of times you get this stupid bullshit lore and like, oh, Eastern outdated crap martial arts, like someone who's been doing Tang Soo, whatever the fuck, for too long and hasn't been in a real fight ever, or even sparring matches, full contact. And they'll say stupid shit like, well, you'll see some huge guy at the gym with gigantic pecs and arms and back. And it'll be like, well, it doesn't mean he's strong. And it's like, yeah, it fucking does. It doesn't mean he's the strongest guy that's that jacked, but he's at least really fucking strong. And anytime you talk to people who are actual people who fight sort of professionally or in the industry, Muay Thai folks, Jiu-Jitsu folks, MMA folks, boxing folks, especially really good people like black belts, for example, they say, hey, like this guy doesn't know any Jiu-Jitsu, but he's 290 and he has huge pecs and legs and everything. Do you want to roll with him? Usually they'll be like, I'd rather not, or any really good boxer will say that any jacked person has like a puncher's chance. And if he just nicks you with his fucking pinky, your head might blow off your fucking body. Fuck all that. Size is a really, really big deal and is the biggest component to strength. You may actually have an inkling as to where we're going with this, right? So here's the deal. Strength gains can be powered by only technique, neural, and architectural adaptations, which is to say you could have the same muscle size and you don't need to put on muscle for a long time, for months and years. You can continue to get stronger with literally unchanged actual size of your muscles. Like your triceps are this thick around and they don't change for 2 years and you're pressing more and more and more and more the entire time. However, after, years at the very least, sometimes months of being the same size, you might run into a plateau-looking situation, if not an outright plateau, because the gains through the neural, architectural, and technical pathways start to really kind of fizzle out. Like you're the perfect analogy here is you can only tune up an engine of a given size so much until like you're just kind of getting as much out of a 4-cylinder as you possibly can. And you say, fuck, how do I make this car faster? And someone's like, I think you need like 6 cylinders, maybe 8, like there's only so much you can do with a certain given size of muscle. And after that, it's just not that many changes. And sometimes the gains just come so slowly they're barely undetectable, or sometimes they sort of recede and come back. So for months, nothing is really happening, which can result in a plateau. Now, there is a solution to this. It's kind of obvious, it's sort of stupid, but I promise it works. If you just put on muscle size, your strength will skyrocket in most cases, especially given a long enough time to let that muscle relearn how to be really, really strong. Now, if you're at a plateau, gaining muscle will make you leave that plateau and gain strength. But it also just makes you get jacked without a plateau. So size gaining can be a plateau buster, even if you don't know what's causing the plateau. And here's kind of the fucked up thing. If really shitty technique is causing you to not be as strong as you could be and causing a plateau, you can just gain size, and even with that shitty technique, still gain stronger. So a lot of times size is so effective that you can just be like, fuck that, I'm just gaining size, and you solve a plateau even though the size wasn't the proximate cause for that plateau. Also, the second point here is that gaining size regularly can just be a good thing to prevent you hitting a plateau to begin with, because you think, okay, I get bigger muscles, I really work on technique and neural adaptations and architecture to take those muscles and make them as strong as they can possibly make me. So I make this sort of marshmallowy thing, and then I make it sinewy and steel. But after it's sinewy and steel, I need more. And I add a few layers of marshmallowy, billowy stuff, and then I make that sinewy and steel. And that's sort of through those cycles is how I get bigger than stronger, then bigger than stronger, then bigger than stronger. Makes sense. Now, it's easy to say, less easy to do, especially right. So I'll give you guys some decent hints here into how to put on muscle size in order for it to convert to strength. First point is you want to switch for some amount of time to sets of mostly 5 to 10 reps. 5 to 10 reps in the derivative lifts. I wouldn't use the core lifts for powerlifting. You can if you want, but a lot of times they're already stale. You've been using them so much. Also, they're designed to put as much weight on your body as possible, tax your muscles the least, while giving you the best biomechanical advantage. You actually want to, for hypertrophy, bias a little bit in the other direction, where you want the muscles to really feel it, but your joints and connective tissues less so. So you can do derivatives that are more challenging for the muscles and less for the joints, like high bar squats versus low bar, deficit deadlifts versus regular deadlifts, wide grip presses, so on and so on and so on. And through these derivatives, you can put on tons of muscle. You have to get stronger in these rep ranges, sets of 5 to 10, for months. That's how you put on muscle. Like hypertrophy phase, the last 2 weeks, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. One is that you don't build a lot of momentum with it. And a lot of times the body will add tissue, and if it's not being used, it will recede. But if you add a lot of tissue, a lot of their muscle memory, so to speak, hangs in there and the tissue doesn't recede for a long time. So you want to commit yourself to this, at least several months. And you make sure the volume is challenging, which is to say you're real tired, you're getting plenty sore. It's not impossible to recover, but you're pushing your recovery limits at least to where you're like, fuck, if I do a lot more, I won't be able to keep this up. That is to prevent you from just showing off. So a lot of people will still do their singles and triples and do like one set of 10 at the end for like book and volume work, bro, hypertrophy work. Well, like how jacked, you look at bodybuilders who are super jacked. Are they doing one set of 10? Like, I don't know, they're doing 5 to 10 sets of 10. Maybe because you're a powerlifter, you don't do that, but maybe you do 3 or 4 sets of 10, like some real meat and potatoes work. Not just showing off that you can do some reps, but actually doing set after set after set of, sets of 5 to 10 to actually hammer in that hypertrophy, because just one set may not be a very good hypertrophy signal. Another critical thing, you got to eat in surplus during this time. It really, really helps. So gain at least half a pound per week for 4 to 16 weeks or something like that. That means you actually add as much muscle as you can. If you don't do that and you switch to sets of 5 to 10, your work capacity can go up, but a lot of times your muscularity doesn't go up much, and thus you get really good temporarily at doing higher reps, but when you cycle back into lower reps, you don't keep much of the strength because you didn't build a whole lot of muscle. The only way you really keep the strength is if you build the muscle. This is to the last point. After you do the sets of 5 to 10 hypertrophy phase, you want to come back and for several months, focus back on sets of 3 to 6 general strength training range. It will take 1 to 2 months for your technical abilities and your nervous system to realign to being strong again, not just good at doing higher reps. There is a difference in muscle architecture. There's a difference in technique. There's a difference in breathing. There's a difference in what your nervous system is, how it outputs to tell your muscles to contract between sets of 8 on average and sets of 4 on average. Big difference, notable difference. And the more advanced you are, the more you notice that difference. Just to you folks that are slightly more advanced, high-level intermediates and above, if you walk out 315 for sets of 8 in a squat, Okay, yeah, you walk it out, you squat it, sweet, you're done. If you go to 365 for sets of 4, even the walkout feels different. Even fuck the walkout, unracking it, you push for a second and you're like, the bar's just bending and I haven't even fucking picked it up yet. And then you pick it up, your traps are depressed. Your technique is different because instead of your hands being here, now they're here. The bar depresses your traps more. It actually sinks your vertebrae down, so you're shorter when you walk out. You have to take a stutter step instead of a full big step. All those technical differences, if you've stayed away from sets of 3 to 6 for a while, they have to be relearned. And at a deep neural level, your body has to sort of get good again at really pushing super hard for just a few reps versus pushing really well, but sort of maintaining its ability and not, I don't know, I guess blowing its load too early for lack of a better term. So you have to relearn strength as a skill. You have to become skilled again at sets of 3 to 6, and that takes some time. The worst fucking thing you can do is do lots of sets of 5 to 10, get really fucking jacked, then come back, try to hit 1RMs, none of them went up, or one went up by 5 pounds and the other 2 went down, and you say, oh, fucking stupid hypertrophy training doesn't work. Well, you didn't give it enough time to transition. You got to take that muscle and train it for a while to be strong again, and then after 1 or 2 months, hopefully sooner, but in many cases it takes that long, you start hitting small PRs, and then small PRs, and then bigger PRs, and they just keep coming in. Holy fucking shit, now I'm getting strong. You pay the cost up front for hypertrophy work. You pay a cost again up front for realigning your body to do strength work, and then the results come. Does this sound like too much to pull off and it's too fucking complicated and just fucking hashtag train and shut the fuck up? Sweet. Good luck getting strong if you're in a plateau. See you next time.